We're going to start this session now with Brooks and Scott from Qualvu and Chrysler. So this is the first session of where we're going to be introducing how the context of mobile fits in and really offers a value back in, and it's great that we've got some clients with us that are going to be joining in and participating in these presentations. So I'll hand over to Brooks and Scott. Thank you.
Thank you. So hopefully you all can hear me, yes? Yeah, I think it's picking up. So my name is Brooks Pettus. I'm the president of Qualvu. Our company is a fairly young company in the research space. We really started as a technology company about 4.5 years ago. We set out with a single-minded purpose, and it really was to be as disruptive as we could be to the qualitative landscape. Having seen 55 years of history of qualitative being done in the traditional setting, we wanted to look for the next generation, the next approach to engaging the consumer on their terms, the goal of getting to richer data. But as a technology company in our origin, we also wanted to find a way to organize all that data, because now there's a sea of rich content out there, tens of hours of video. We'll talk about that in the case study here in a moment. The real challenge is, how do you organize that content? How do you find the insight and make it truly actionable for your clients? So that's the origin of our business. Over the 4 years, we've morphed into something different. We actually had to create a full-service qualitative shop in order to create some of the demand side and the interest in video-based research. So I run that part of our company today. My partner runs the platform and services business, which works with other research companies. And so it was nice to be able to come here and speak today. We have a great case study we're going to talk about, and Scott is a friend of mine now, but he's also a great client of ours from the Chrysler side. I'll let him go ahead and introduce himself.
Good morning. I'm Scott Slagle. Pleasure to be with you today. And in addition to attending conferences like this and getting to hang out with fine folks like you, one of my jobs is looking for new and innovative ways to kind of see what's inside people's heads. And it's kind of like, why they do what they do, and kind of more interesting to me is why they don't do what you want them to do. That's always a fun exercise in and of itself, considering the amount of money we spend to get them to do things. But anyway, it's easy to say that we are out looking for things and innovative approaches, so maybe I'll prove this point out a little bit. Our headquarters in Auburn Hills, Michigan is a rather large building. It's second to the Pentagon in size of the footprint of the building, and it houses about 15,000 people. It's slightly larger than Brooks's Colorado estate, but it's a pretty big place. But anyway, so the depth of our despair, so you know the recent history of Chrysler, that building that holds 15,000 people was less than 7,000 people, probably closer to 6. So we're staffed back up, things have turned, and we have a lot of new people in the organization. And so we get requests, one a couple weeks ago, to come out and share some things with the new hires on what we do and how we talk to consumers, and basically what do we want to do. So my boss said, well, why don't we use the presentation you put together when the Fiat team came. We merged with Fiat. We had this partnership with Fiat, and we shared how we approach research and how they approach research. So that was about 3 years ago. So I'm flipping through this deck, and I go back to her and say, Joanne, it's impossible. We can't do this because we don't do 90% of this stuff the same way anymore. So we've totally changed the way we do business and talk to the consumer. So that's all good news, and that's kind of how we found Brooks here. Brooks was on the corner of Wall and Church Street with his little cup of pencils selling his wares, and he talked about an innovative approach, a way of changing qualitative research online. So we took it for a spin, and we've been pretty active with their company over the last 3 years. So I'll turn it over to Brooks to tell you what we're going to talk about today.
So there's kind of 4 key takeaways from the 15 minutes we have with you all. The big bet that we made as a company is this offline-online migration, and looking at this transition. And it's interesting, we just did a survey with our clients, and they look at their 2011 spend online was roughly around 15%. Now, granted, these are early adopters of online and video-based technologies, but they're about 15% of their spend. They project that by next year, they'll be at 45% of their spend will involve an online component. So the world is changing quickly, which for us is quite fortunate, because we made a big bet on this. We invested quite a few $1 million in this technology approach methodology, and it's coming to fruition. So it's great to see. And the one thing I can tell you is that from working with our clients on the research side, the first movers have an advantage. So Qualvu, as a full-service shop, has grown exponentially, and we've done extremely well in these last few years. But what we're really excited about as well is to bring our technology, this way of collecting video-based richer data in an asynchronous world and organizing it to empower other researchers to grow their business at the same time. And we've seen these first movers, these early adopters, grow by 2, 3, 4-fold, and what a very traditional approach in the past. And so we're seeing this also transition of the way the consumer interacts with research. They're becoming brand advisors. They're taking some ownership of the process along with us. And we're going to talk about the ongoing conversation element that our asynchronous approach really lends itself to. The third one is that when working with Chrysler, we were really looking for this candid consumer feedback. We want to be able to capture, and true to our nature, the moments of truth as they occur. So by bringing the research to the participant and letting them engage on their schedule, we can get in their lives in a way that in traditional might have been a challenge. We'll talk about some of the elements here as well of being able to engage the engineers from within Chrysler with a consumer in a very intimate way, again, over a period of about 6 or 9 months. That ongoing conversation has a very powerful impact. And it's also the fact that you're getting geographic dispersion. So you're not going in and just connecting with 3 or 4 individuals in their homes. We can look at sample sizes of 24 and 32 and up and be able to spend hours with those individuals over the course of weeks in field. So we'll talk about some more detail on that front in just a moment. I have one more slide that I'll speak to, which is this tale of the 2 startups. And Scott really alluded to this, is that when we first met, our company, we're fairly aggressive salespeople. We're relentless about selling. My partner and I are both, I'm a technology guy, he's a researcher, but we're both salesmen. In the early days, we knocked on every door that we could to tell this story of innovation, of the evolving landscape. And I'll be honest, there weren't a lot of people answering the door. I mean, the traditional world was very successful. Why change? Well, clearly that's a different story today, but it's been a unique experience over these 3 or 4 years. Ad agencies were the first ones to respond to us, and we were lucky enough that one of them introduced us into Chrysler. And Chrysler, as Scott mentioned, they were in a moment in 2008 and 2009 that wasn't very kind to them. They're in space in general, but very much to this company. And I remember walking in there in this half-filled building. It was like a ghost town. There was no one queued up to get past security, go meet, no vendors waiting to get inside. It was just me in the lobby and Scott coming out to say hello and introduce me to Joanne and the rest of the team. But what was really inspiring to us as these brash startup guys is that there was a spirit of innovation. They had a new CEO. He was a workaholic, a visionary. He was really stirring the pot within this company. And it had permeated the culture. They had created a new culture of engagement, of innovation. And part of it is probably survival. I mean, just like any other startup, you have to survive. You innovate or you die. And it was great to see that intellectual curiosity they had and seeing it work its way through the organization. It was a great foundation. It was a great opportunity for us to engage them. And we've had a great experience ever since then to be able to grow the business and really push the edge of innovation more so than any other automotive company that we work with to date. It's truly impressive. So it's been a lot of fun working with them. I think Scott will talk a little bit about Chrysler and some of their innovative approaches now.
So Brooks just talked about our CEO, Sergio Marchioni. Really innovative person in himself, and he's really pushing the organization. It's incredible. So I just told you that we changed everything the way we did 3 years ago, totally new environment. And I worked in research 10 years and left and went in brand and came back, and wow, the world's really changed. As you all know, technology's changed it all. And so we're thinking pretty good. We got all these great things in place, different methodologies, cutting edge of everything. And earlier this year, he's basically told us that we've got to push the organization more. We've got to dig deeper, find more insights to consumer, and get the consumer driving the bus in the building. So when he first got here, people would be making presentations to him, and he'd say, well, that's a very interesting idea. Where's your consumer insights to support this case or this idea? And of course, they didn't have them because a lot of people at the time thought they knew everything better than the consumer, and unfortunately, that led us in a bad spot. And so after a few of those meetings, they kind of figured out that they didn't want to get their head kicked in with the boss, so they would go, our door got really busy, right? People coming in and trying to get consumer insights. So this whole innovation approach at Chrysler is really driving to get the customer driving decisions at the corporation more so than the staff folks at work. So it's kind of interesting. We actually have an innovative shop now, an innovation shop where it's a separate building where designers can go in, and designers and engineers, and they've got their own little workspaces away from their normal desks. So it's kind of a totally different company than it was just 3 years ago. And so with that, back to you.
So a little bit of more context about the approach we take in terms of innovation and qualitative and data collection and organization. So our logic was that video would become the next medium for connectivity between a business and their consumer. And the idea of getting out of the focus group recall-based environment, getting out of the sort of invasive aspect of either having strangers together or a researcher in your presence, our idea was to bring the research to the participants and let them engage on their schedule. So the fact that it's video-based, but it's on their timeline. We typically spend a week or 2 or 3 in field with our consumers, with our participants in any given study, and they can respond 24 hours a day. And they can do so, we're in the shower with people, we are in the store, we're in aisle 4 at Whole Foods or at Costco. I mean, we see things that just go beyond the pale. But what it speaks to is this idea of openness and sharing and richer data in this new approach to qualitative. And then as I also mentioned, now that we have this rich pool of data, it's having great resources to organize, to code that data to an actionable outcome, and then to be able to deliver the insight that helps our clients make better decisions. So that was really the foundation. I think that's what piqued their curiosity as a company, is that they could have a different conversation, a different level of engagement, gather a far wider pool of data, and then off we go. And so we look at in-home, and granted, this is definitely not Scorsese quality cinematography. This is UGC. These are individuals who are driving their own photograph or their own filming, and you have to take that with a grain of salt. But you get access into their lives in a way that you wouldn't otherwise. And here are the individuals showing you their home, and in a moment, hopefully the other slide I'll click on, which is the in-vehicle and around the vehicle. But it gives us a chance to get some foundational information about who these consumers are, what are their needs, how does their home environment then impact the automotive needs that they have and some of their desires and preferences. And this is what you see. We have other projects where we're working in field, and we're at 3 or 4 in the morning with individuals who have a sleep challenge, and you see them literally, at wit's end, kind of like a Blair Witch Project. I mean, just losing their minds and shaking their mate, whoever's in the bed with them, to try to get them awake to share in their pain, and off they go. So we'll let this one run for a little bit more, and we'll talk about the design for the actual study that we did together.
So I'm sure all researchers, we all do presentations to the executives, and I'm sure that you feel the same way. As we could tell them what the customer said, and that's one way. But when they see that customer saying it in the video clip, it seems like it carries a lot more weight than what we do. So what we want to show you is a real quick example of what we've done. What's nice about this platform is we've been able to do some real basic things that we did at the beginning, and we've been able to tailor things and really expand how we can take the approach to this tool into the marketplace. So really what we wanted to do here is to have a better understanding of a mid-size sedan that meets consumers' lifestyles and needs. So we did a little bit of ethnography with this. We haven't done an ethnography via the video before. We usually do traditional in-home. So we knew a lot about this space already. We just feel that we didn't execute properly in it. And so this is how we use this tool to go in and do a little bit of in-home ethnography and then really dig into this space. And really how we did this was a long process, 6 to 9 months engagement with these people, these panels. And so you go to the next one.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Got it?
Yeah.
All right, so basically the approach we take is not so much, Brooks here, go answer this question for us. They go off to it, give it back to us, and we hand it off. So we take a workshop approach where we bring in a lot of the disciplines within the company, engineering, design, marketing, brand, so on and so forth, bring them in as part of a work team, and we'll go through these various exercises. So this one in particular, we talked about lifestyle needs of the consumer, trying to figure out how their lives connected with their cars, what they liked about them, what they didn't like about them, and really how that whole environment, the clues in their home, how they had their home set up, and it's truly amazing what people will show you and how they video sell it. We tell them to don't clean up their house, just be as relaxed as you can, and we've got people answering questions in lingerie, and it's like, really? Come on, give me a break. So anyway, we drive through this whole concept. So this was a rather long process. We did like 4 to 5 exercises with these people, modules, and we work as a team. We go collect the data. Brooks and his team would cut it down because we'd have tons and tons of hours of video, and then we'd make decisions as we go through this whole process as we were learning. And so that really led us to this slide here, and basically out of the chatter from the first 2 sessions we had with these people, so we had 20 hours or more, 30 hours of video, we were able to come up with 7 concepts that people were interested in, they were talking about as they were discussing the space of car. So at the top we had ideas that had really strong conviction, and at the bottom there were low convictions. And then on the left side was niche appeal to very few people, and then onto the right was broad appeal. And so from that we laid out what these concepts of vehicles could be, and then we went back out to the folks again, and have them discuss these various concepts. So here we developed the concepts, and basically we're telling them it wasn't a picture of a car, it was an idea. And so we described what this idea was. So if the performance is this way, is it more of a driver's car, is it more of just a relaxed, easy drive vehicle? Is it more fuel efficient, or is it more, power? Is the interior style a certain way versus, is it more traditional or is it more modern? Those types of descriptors. And we had these concepts of the cars, and we kept going through these various stages, getting feedback on all of these concepts to kind of funnel the folks down to an answer. And then we finally ended up with 3 concepts, and then we had one concept that ran through all of them, but it wasn't strong enough to carry the day. So we brought that into all of these concepts. We went back out one more time, and we developed this final concept. So between the green and this purple one, it was probably like a 2-3 month break. But through the whole time we went back out, we still had the same people engaged throughout this whole process. So there were, although it was a 9-month process, we had times where we didn't engage the people. So we left them, and then we came back to them, and they still hung with us. And then
I'll just interject the one idea here, a couple thoughts on this, is that, again, leveraging the ongoing conversation, geographic dispersion. I mean, that's true to mobile research and this new frontier, new approach of engaging the customer on their terms, their timeline. And we see that sense of ownership. So I think we had 3 unique engagements with the same participants over that long span of time. They may not at some point they come to understand who the brand is, typically if it's unblinded. That's very obvious at the front, but if it's blinded, they start to intuit who it is. And they may not like your brand, they may not like what you stand for even, but they will take ownership of this process. And I think it has something to do with the comfort of home, the fact that it's non-invasive, that it is on their schedule. The other point that I think is really intriguing, and this is a good learning for all of us, and this has really changed our business in this last year, is that it's all about collaboration. To succeed in this online world versus an offline approach where you have that back room experience, you can be at the focus group and pass a note to the research, say, let's go talk about 1 and 3 here and go a little bit deeper. We had to create a facility for that. And we actually learned this from Chrysler. It's this idea that by doing workshops, by bringing teams together, by collaborating at multiple touch points through the life of a project, you can get to a better outcome, a more insightful outcome. And that's what our customers really appreciate today. Our reports are something that they feel some ownership around, that they helped write. As if they had the time to write it, they get a report back that says, well, that's exactly what I needed to know. And that's what's really helping us shape and move this offline-online migration, in particular this video-based medium. It's all about collaboration with the client. We feel very fortunate that, again, these early days, and we were a startup, and Chrysler was very much acting like one, they were willing to share and teach us a great deal as well that we could then return back to the marketplace. So it's been a big part of our success, and it's helped us create innovation along lines. I mean, there's some things we're doing today we can't really talk about, but that are extremely innovative and on the front edge of what I'm seeing in the automotive industry. And that's really exciting for us. And so we're really thankful for the partnership we've had with Chrysler over the years and where we've gotten to today. And this is kind of a quick window of what that project looked like. Do you want to close on this one?
Yeah, so basically the 23 is the number of participants that stayed with us throughout the process, and we provided them with the video technology to capture their comments. They delivered us about 86 hours of video, which is a ton of video to get through. And so since we've completed this project, we've been developing this vehicle that we'll be taking out the clinic later this year to see how it actually, the real model, plays with consumers. So that's kind of how the process worked for us.
So that's our presentation. Are there questions?
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do we have any questions from the audience?
Yes, thank you. Very interesting presentation. Now, was it the same 23 people through the entire process, or it was sort of like you empaneled them in a way, but they were giving you this video?
It was the same 23. We actually started with 25. We had 2 that dropped out, but it was the same 23 basically that stuck through the whole process.
The key to that is that you create the expectation up front of what they're signing up for, that they're going to be involved with multiple waves of research, and they commit to that. And as long as you create the right expectation, you communicate with the participants throughout, we get a remarkable level of engagement and retention throughout the life cycle of a project. And with that, again, comes that ownership, better output, and again, unique to our online world.
Do you have any more questions at all? Okay, plenty of questions. Okay.
Hi, thank you. how did you distill those 86 hours down into the key nuggets that you built collaboration around?
That's a great question. So again, if you look at our core value proposition as a technology company, let alone as a research company, is that collecting the data is the easy part. Getting to 86 hours is pretty straightforward. And I've actually been in presentations now where our clients are curious about video. They may have tried their own online or offline approach by sending flip cams out and collecting that data. What they realize that, again, that's quite simple. Is what you do with those tens of hours, how you code it and organize it to an actual outcome. That is the true challenge and the value proposition. That's where we thrive as a platform and services business. Is that we have tools that I'm more than happy to show you to give another time, but where you can go in and take a time-coded transcript, that's a human-based transcript, it's time-coded to the video. Now all that video is searchable. You can code it. We have a process and a workflow that allows you to go in and highlight a piece of text and drop it in a code bucket, add some annotation, and keep moving your way through the data. It's a process that we work ourselves, but we also teach our research partners to use for themselves at the same time. And that's really the value, is that you would be overwhelmed with the data otherwise. And what we want to do, you actually have so much data and so much insight that the fear is that you'll miss some of that depth, some of that color, those golden nuggets that will become the insight that you want to use in the report later on. Our coding process is so systematic and so easy. It's a great user experience that we find that we get every piece of data, or nearly every piece of data, translated to an insight. And that's the power of the technology aspect of this thing. So it really is it's a tale of these two worlds. One, collecting it through a unique methodology, and a whole other process to organize it to an actual outcome. Because then the researcher can really shine and thrive. And it's a different environment than the focus group, where it's very much about the moderator in the focus group and bringing out the data from the individuals. Our world is very much about the process of delivering the insight at the end, and the workflow and the tools that help you get there and help our team get there as well, so that we can get 86 hours and help them build a better vehicle in a segment they may not have competed in the past. Is that helpful? Does that answer the question? It's not necessarily quantitative. It's just that it's a tool set. So you have transcripts. You can highlight text and drop it in a code bucket that you create, typically very closely mirrors the discussion guide, which is a strategic element of what your purpose was in the research. You create a code guide as well, and you can just parse data and drop it in there. And in so doing, you're also creating clips that you can use in a presentation later on. A lot of our value proposition is to be able to report and bring the story to life with the collaborative element with the voice and face of the customer, and the process gets you there.
Okay, I'm conscious of time, but Tom had a question which not too dissimilar to the last question, which was on the lines of this method and similar methods end up bringing in a huge amount of data. Mm-hmm. And how do you process that huge amount of data to be able to get to the key points that you want to be able to pull through?
It's not like we took 86 hours of video and we started that process. So each of the exercises we have somebody do, so it's a discrete exercise. So you have it might be an hour or two of video there that get analyzed. And so we're looking for themes. So it's not like we just ended up with 86 and then we start. So it's all binned in exercises, the way the respondents participate in the research.
I appreciate there's a couple more people waiting to ask questions, but just for purpose of time, I'd like us to move on, but hopefully you'll have a chance maybe to catch up in the breaks. Yeah. Or okay, so thank you very much.
Thank you all.